So you enjoy cooking or you want to be a better cook? Well, I've got great news. You don't necessarily need the latest and greatest brand new cookware to do that. In fact, in some ways, older cookware and appliances from yesteryear are way better than the modern stuff. Today, I'm going to tell you why. Hello and welcome to I Want to Cook. My name is Chef Matt and this channel is all about helping you be a better cook. And of course, to cook, you need cookware. And today we are talking about older vintage cookware. And let's define two things before we get started. By cookware, I mean everything from, well, pots and pans to utensils to even appliances. And as far as being old or vintage, well, I don't have a precise definition or time frame, but let's just say anything from 25 years to way older than that. That's what I'm going to consider old or vintage for this video. I should also note that while this video is going to highlight the merits of older vintage cookware, that's not to say that new great cookware is not being made today. It certainly is, and I've used some of those newer things, well, many times in my videos. That could be everything from an all-clad pan to a Maviel pan to something like a Staub or Le Creuset, or modern appliances. Things like an Instant Pot or an air fryer that, well, those aren't vintage and you couldn't get them back in the day. Those are modern types of appliances and those are fantastic. I use those sorts of things almost every single day. That said, let's dive into the 5 reasons why you should seek out older cookware like all of this stuff here on the table, and well, I've got much more of it in the garage. And the first reason you should seek out vintage cookware is because it's often inexpensive or even free. Now, if you watch this channel regularly, you know that I am an absolute thrift store junkie. In fact, most of my cookware, at least the older stuff, I bought from a thrift store. And I bought it for pennies on the dollars versus having to buy it new. Or you might even get it free, like a hand-me-down. For example, when I left home, my mother gifted me with this Corningware casserole dish. And well, if you're a really regular viewer of this channel, you know that I love vintage Corningware. I made a whole video on it. I'll put a link to that in the description below. But anyways, this was free and she gave this to me a long time ago. And let me tell you, it is still fantastic. I still use it regularly. In fact, I'm probably going to make some cornbread in it tonight. But this is just one example of older vintage cookware that, well, doesn't cost a penny if you know where to look or who to ask. The second reason you should seek out older cookware is that because it is often durable. After all, if it's lasted this many decades, it's probably going to last quite a few more. For example, I've got some old Revereware here. In fact, I made an entire video about this particular pot because it is just so different. Here's a Revereware pot, here's a Revereware pan. I've also got some really neat Descoware here. This is enameled cast iron. I believe this was made in Belgium, and this stuff is probably from, well, if I had to make a guess, the 1950s or before. All of this stuff that you see here is decades old, and it is durable and still lasts. You can't often say that about some of the newer stuff. Some of those newer pans, well, they just feel flimsy. They don't feel solid like this stuff. When you're shopping for vintage cookware, of course, you can look for the brands you know. In this case, this is Descoware. You can look for Farberware, Revereware, some of that stuff. But also keep your eyes peeled for anything that is quality with a name that you don't know. So, for example, I found this pan while I was thrifting in Texas last year, and this is made by a company called Youngsware. I have no idea who that was or how this cookware came about, but it was made in the USA. I'm guessing it's from the 1970s or so, and this thing is so solid, and I love cooking with it. So even if you're not familiar with the name of an older pot or pan that you come across, pick it up, see how it feels. A lot of this stuff is just super, super durable and will last many more years. A third reason you should seek out older cookware is that, well, you may not mind abusing it a little bit. Because it is cheap and because it's durable, well, if you're cooking something unfamiliar, maybe you're afraid of scorching it or just kind of, messing up that brand new pan you bought, well, no worries if you buy an old one. So this old Revereware, when I first bought it, I made a lot of chicken livers in it. I would cook over an open flame outside. I would just kind of beat on it with metal utensils. And you know what? This thing still looks brand new. It's incredible. Again, that speaks to that durability. But an older pan like this is just great to have if it's something that, well, you don't mind messing up a little bit. You're not out a whole lot of money, and you can always find another one, often at a thrift store if you need it. And buying something like this is way better than going to a discount store or something and buying a cheap pan only to get burned later. In fact, I made an entire video on cheap versus expensive pans, and the gist is, well, just buy quality to begin with so you don't get burnt in the end. And let me tell you, this is quality and it's cheap. So go for the durable thing, go for the old cookware to begin with, and well, it will last you well into the future. A fourth reason to seek out old cookware is that, well, it's unique, at least now in the modern era. I mean, nobody else is using a pan like this, or a nice dish like this, or even an old appliance like this. This is a Hamilton Beach electric mixer. I mean, look at this thing. It's built like a tank. It's made in the USA. I mean, you're not gonna find mixers like that anymore. It's totally unique and it still works wonderfully.
Oh yeah.
I love using pans that are unique. Here again, this is one that I found at the thrift store. I mean, just look at this thing. It looks kind of like a UFO, a flying saucer. And here again, I'd never heard of this brand. At first, because of the copper bottom, I thought it was Revereware. It's actually something called Presto Pride. I have never heard of that brand. If you have, please let me know in the comments below. But Presto Pride, big copper bottom, stainless steel interior. This thing is built like a tank, and I love cooking with it because it functions well and, well, it's totally different. I mean, who else has this pan? And the fifth reason I love old cookware, and I think you should too, it's kind of maybe an existential or philosophical reason, but I just think they have a story to tell, and we can continue that story. A lot of this old cookware, I have no idea of who owned this before me, but man, the stories I can dream up. This is an old one. This is a wherever pan, aluminum on the outside, stainless steel on the interior. I'm guessing this was made from war surplus. I mean, the stories that this pot could tell, the meals it has cooked. And then there's the really personal ones. Like, how many meals did my mother make in this casserole when I was a child? And now I get to do the same. These all have a story to tell. And well, that's just something that isn't possible when you go to your local retailer and you just buy a pan. Yeah, you can give it a story for sure, but well, these come with stories built in. So those are just 5 of my reasons why I love old cookware. If you're watching this and you love it as much as I do, please comment below. Let me know why you love cooking with this stuff or collecting with this stuff. And if you've never kind of dipped your toes into older cookware, well, maybe start with a family member. See if there's something that they want to get rid of. And again, you can always head to your local thrift store. You know me, I love that. I always recommend buying quality pots and pans and appliances at your thrift store. You can often find some wonderful, wonderful cookware for, well, really cheap. Okay, trivia time. And speaking of old things, last week I asked you to identify what this crazy thing is with this crank and this blade, and wow, several of you knew it. This is indeed a Kilner butter maker, and oh my gosh, I will be making an entire video on this and how this works. You will definitely want to see that. Homemade butter, my friends. Right here out of this thing, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Okay, for this week's culinary trivia, we are headed back to the produce aisle. Who knows what this thing is, this strange looking thing? If you know or you have a guess, put it in the comments below. And of course, next week I will let you know the answer to what this thing is. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Until next time, I hope you want to cook.